Welcome to Swole Hammer. I'm Rafiq, and this is the Command Re-Swole, where we take a step back and talk about an issue, think about it, and discuss ways that it can improve our favorite game, that being Warhammer. In this episode, we're taking a look at the fairly maligned Stormcast Eternals and whether they deserve to be the poster children of Age of Sigmar. To preface, we actually like Stormcast Eternals as a faction, but in the ways that GW doesn't really focus on. They have an extremely cool aesthetic and interesting parts of their lore that really aren't that fleshed out. The idea for this video came about from just various discussions I've had with people about just general disinterest in Stormcast, and whenever they're put into a starter kit, kind of the groan that goes with it. Very maligned faction, as I said. So I put up a poll on the Swolehammer community page, and in a weird way was pleasantly surprised that I actually was kind of warranted in my feelings about how they shouldn't be the poster children, whereas more of a 40-60 split and in favor of no. I actually thought people would say mostly just yes. That is really interesting to see, and let's just go straight into the issues that the Stormcast have kind of brought on themselves and GW has kind of not really helped with. So just starting with the issues with Stormcast, they're an extremely pushed army, but just don't have the popularity like Space Marines in 40k to really warrant it. And they've been done no favors by the community by being mislabeled and misrepresented as Sigmar Space Marines, i.e. Sigmarines. If anything, kind of lore and aesthetically wise, they represent Custodes more. They're the big golden boys, they're truly the hands of Sigmar, and also the interesting undertone that I mentioned that they've lived for so long and so many lives that there's this mental deterioration that goes with it because you've lived so long. And in the case of Stormcast have been brought back, and each time you get brought back, you lose part of yourself more and more mentally. And even in the case of Custodes and Stormcast, both just, this is not well highlighted in the stories, and also in gameplay. It'd be cool to see for Stormcast to kind of like have to deal with this, because that's an interesting and tragic issue that makes them way more engaging. Another huge issue is that Games Workshop just refuses to accept that Stormcast don't work as a poster child. From both general lamenting to personal experiences I've had even recently, such as when the Underworld starting set was announced and the top comment was someone saying, "Oh, gross, more Stormcast" kind of thing. And GW straight up deleted that comment pretty much an hour later when I went back to show Riley. Obviously, it's deleted, and so it becomes hearsay on my part, but it is interesting to see that Games Workshop wants to kind of clear out any negativity of Stormcast and make it seem like people want it, which ultimately hinders Age of Sigmar greatly, and the branding really hinders the growth of the game. So what's the solution to all of this? Easily enough, make Cities of Sigmar or Grand Alliance Order in general the poster children for Age of Sigmar if you need one. It cannot be undermined the popularity of Cities of Sigmar, especially with the new model range coming out. I've known dozens of people who are actually willing to start Age of Sigmar because of those new models. And that's the thing, with a game that has so much flavor for it being this high fantasy setting, not showing off things like crazy vampiric sea elves and deepkin or steampunk dwarves on your branding seems like you're really hamstringing yourself. The most interesting part of Age of Sigmar is the fact that you have all these normal fantasy tropes taken up and amped up to 11, and those factions are hardly shown in any sort of branding. Even more advertising for the other Grand Alliances. Just as many people play Grand Alliance Death, Destruction, and Chaos. Chaos especially. I mean, if you ask me, Archeon's the real star of the show, and Sigmar, as a lot of people already kind of admit, is a piece of crap who flat out turned his back on humanity when he realized, oh, I made a mistake and I'm not gonna win. And lastly, flesh out those interesting parts of the Stormcast, because I don't want them to go away, but the best parts of Stormcast are the ones that aren't shown. Like I said, when they come down, get brought back in game, have them have some sort of debuff and buff to show that kind of that they lost themselves and they're losing themselves, and reflect that in the tabletop. That's interesting. Not the fact that they're just like golden thunder warriors that we're supposed to just accept as Sigmar Space Marines, because that is just flat out cringe. Either way, let me know what you think. Give us your reasoning, and let's figure this one out. In the end, I'm Rafiq with Swolehammer. Stay swole.